Hello, everybody. It is I, Becca Lori Hector here, and I am definitely gonna have to take my hair down and put a hat on. I didn't think it was gonna be so, like, uber bright out here, but it is. Probably should have thought about that a few minutes ago. Anyway, um, here we are. It is I, Becca Lori Hector here, and I am on my deck, and my dogs just saw something in the yard, clearly. And welcome to Being Becca Live. Being Becca Live is where we kind of meet up once a week to talk about what it's like to be an adult on the spectrum alive right now and what the challenges are sort of that we face kind of in that kind of vein. So yay. Hey CV, hi Bernard, happy Wednesday to you guys. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to join me here today. It is my day off from the vet's office, so I am doing this stuff and some of my other consulting work. But it's a really pretty day out. It's been really gorgeous all morning, actually. Really nice breeze and all kind of stuff. It's just starting to get hot out, and so I'm just about to move inside, I think, for the day. So yes, thank you for saying the doggies are here. CV, they're down. Walter is now going to bark like that, probably in the background the whole time now, because he's now seen a chipmunk. And once he sees one, that's it. We all have to know. So anyway, yeah, it is my day off, and I've just been enjoying the breeze outside and the day and all of that. And this is like the first thing I have to do this morning. And so I've been sitting here kind of thinking about what I wanted to talk about today and what were some of the things that I've been thinking about. And what I really came up with is that I kind of want to talk about I don't want to say autism and social media. I just want to talk about like being human and social media, right? And what that is like. Morning, Nancy. Morning, Ross. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Because what I've been experiencing lately is this forced disconnect from the internet, this forced disconnect from being on my phone, being on the computer, all of that stuff. And I haven't minded it. And so it really has made me start to think about some stuff. So as you know, you guys, I returned to work sort of part-time for right now at the vet's office, and I'm loving it and all of that good stuff. And I love my team. And what I love about it is, besides the work itself, is this other after effect, or this other like by proxy effect, I guess I want to talk about, which is this forced like disconnect from the internet. And so one of the things that I love about this job is that you're forced to be in the moment, right? You can't have a wandering mind. You can't really afford to lose your focus for too long. And you can't really worry about self. And I know that would sound weird to any other group of people, but to us, thinking about self or worrying about self is something that we do on a regular basis when anytime, right, that we're in the presence of another human being, right? We're aware of our difference. We know that there are risks with our difference. We know that there are chances for people to point out our differences. And sometimes it goes okay, and sometimes it goes badly, but we live in that, especially those of us that are late diagnosed. We live in that state of just focus, and that's where the masking comes from. You know, like the same focus it takes you to mask is what it takes to be an awareness of self. So you're sort of in a situation, right, and you're dealing with the situation and taking that information, but we're having also this internal side conversation about what our body looks like, what our mouths and our face looks like, the words that we're choosing, the hand motions we're making, the way we choose to answer a question, all of those little things, right? We're thinking about in the background. And I've only experienced the freedom of not having that background conversation when I am fully occupied and focused. So it happens when I'm with my special interests, hence why we choose them so much, right? It's a break from that other outside stuff. And then, you know, more recently, I've tried to sort of, in that search for joy and in that search for fun and flavor and all of that stuff that I do, I've figured out some other times and other ways that I can do that. And the key to the whole thing is this being in the moment thing, right? When we do activities that require us to be in the moment and present in a very imperative way, right? Yes, timing eye contact to CV, right? All of that stuff. And so I've just been really thinking about how and what it is that we need to get out of that space. And there is only a few times I've experienced it in my life, obviously with special interest, but the other time, and this is going to sound absurd. I know it will sound absurd when I say it out of my mouth, but after I say it, you guys, I think it'll make sense to you. So one of the only other times that I've experienced it, one of the reasons that I love doing this thing so much is because of that experience. So Antonio and I like to go four-wheeling, and we've not done it a lot. We don't have special ATVs. We go in our old Jeep and all of that stuff. But you have to, when you're going four-wheeling and you're using a larger vehicle than like those little fun little mobile things, you have to be really present, right? Just like anytime you're driving, you should be, but really particularly when you're climbing and scaling rocks and things like that, or you're at heavy inclines on small roads, that kind of thing. There's a deeper concentration to the driving of that, right? So, hey, and so that's what I've been thinking about. And so to connect it back to what I want to talk about today, which is social media, right? This happens when I'm doing vet tech work, right? And we're so busy. And of course, your focus has to be on the patient in front of you, or the patient that's coming up, or, the patient that just left and you need to finish up whatever you were doing, right? There's a very required amount of being present in this job, right? It's required. And so that's what I want us to think about, right? Is that forced being in the moment thing. Okay, so I love that so much. It gives my brain a break. It does all of these other things. But the other plus to it is this whole social media bit, right? So what I've noticed is that when I'm busy and focused and doing something that I enjoy, that desire or that need or the priority of the phone or what's happening on the internet disappears, right? And so now I've been doing this job for a couple of weeks now, and I'm starting to see the culmination of the effect of all of that coming together, right? So this week I really noticed how little I checked my phone, how some days I even didn't share even my own posts in other places, right? And I just was like, if you see it, you see it. And so there's this shifting of priority that's happening that I hope that you can see, right? So that when I'm forced to stay in the moment and forced to really think about what's happening right now in front of me, my brain doesn't want to break off so much and look for distraction in the phone, right? My brain isn't seeking that escape, right? And when I'm not needing to do that, suddenly what's happening on that phone or what's happening on the internet begins to lose its power. Do you get it? It starts to lose its importance. It's no longer a priority because what's happening in front of me is a priority, and therefore it also loses its power with it, right? And so there's this miraculous thing that's been happening in my life, this peace of mind that I've had that's relatively new, and I've only experienced it a few times. And what it's letting me know is how impactful the time that I spend on the phone and on the internet is in my life, and how much when I'm not needing it in that way because I'm not bored, right? My brain isn't looking for that escape due to boredom. I'm feeling better. I'm sleeping better. I'm feeling better health-wise all around, and other things are happening. But also, when stuff happens on the internet, I'm caring less about that, right? And so what that's telling me is that it's time for me to really shift my priorities, right? That used to be a priority for me, and it's now become an unhealthy place. And so because it's become an unhealthy place, activity, whatever we want to call it, right? It's not fulfilling me in the same way anymore, right? And I'm getting that fulfillment in other places. And so there's been this challenge for me on days like today when I'm kind of on a day off, but I have other things that I have to do. The desire to do those things, or to do them perfectly, or to try to go viral, or all of those other little things aren't in it anymore, if that makes sense, right? My brain's like, no, I have all this information already. I sort of know what the response to the stuff is going to be, and it's boring, and I don't care, right? And that feeling, that statement of I don't care is my tell. That's like, if I played poker, that would be my tell. I don't care for me is like, okay, you're done with this thing, right? Because I'm not somebody who can do things without care. Okay, does that make sense? I hope that made sense. Like, I care a lot about the stuff that I do when I do it with my own hands and all of that. So when I begin to say I don't care about this thing anymore, right, what I'm really saying is my priorities are shifting. Something else is more important than that. You get that? It's not an I don't care, it's that this is more important. And so I had that realization this week. I was really sort of excited about what that means for potential of what I can do in a productive way on my days off and in different ways. And how do I want to take that? Where do I want all of that to go? And so that's sort of where I'm at today. It was like, this job that I'm doing now does not require the internet, whereas the consulting required the internet all the time, right? And so because I required it all the time, it had this great importance. And I'm just loving this shift that's happening for me. I'm loving that at 45, I can still feel my brain on fire. And only autistics will understand that when we find a new special interest, when we're really ignited by something, when we're really just lit up by a particular topic, activity, or whatever it is, right? Your brain gets on fire. That's how it feels to me. It feels like it's firing really fast. I feel awake. I feel grounded. I feel fully in myself and fully authentic when that's happening. And so there's been a lot of that happening, and it feels for me so much healthier and so much more fulfilling and so much more successful than the feelings that I was getting from the internet. And so, like, the last few days, I've been noticing little things about behaviors on the internet, people's behaviors on the internet, and how much I don't like those behaviors and how much they are rooted and solely exist on social media, right? It's not the behaviors that you see in real life from people, right? So, for example, I mean, and this is going to be a funny one because I can't help but be snarky about it, right? Here was when this big realization happened. I had posted a quote, and I don't remember if it was yesterday now or the day before, or even the day before that, but I posted one of my memes with a quote by Oprah, okay? So, of course, there had to be naysayers about, oh, we shouldn't take advice from the fat machine that is Oprah. We shouldn't take advice from billionaires, all of this stuff, right? And my initial response was like to defend Oprah. Like, yo, she didn't just become a billionaire, right? She worked at it. She had most of her life, she had nothing. So this isn't like personal Oprah attack. What the fuck, right? And then, the fat machine that surrounds Oprah has almost as much to do with our society as it does with Oprah herself. So that doesn't negate the knowledge in her words, right? Still, right? And so what I wanted to say, and I did end up posting, was like, sure, no problem. I'll tell Oprah, right? Like, do you think I'm friends with Oprah? Really? It's as ridiculous for you to criticize a quote by Oprah as it is for me to say, I'll give her a call and let her know. Right? Like, it's just a crazy thing. And so what's happening is, what I'm seeing is that these people really just are negative people, right? And they're looking for the negative in everything. They're not able to see any of the positives or look at the quote or the words for the power of themselves, not the person who they came from necessarily. Are you getting the message, or are you missing the message entirely, right? That whole idea. And it just really got me thinking about how some people are just really only comfortable in that negative space, and that are only comfortable when they can feel like a victim, or are only comfortable when they're the aggressor, and all of those negative spaces, right? And that solely exists on the internet. Those people that feel that way wouldn't dare to say it to your face. None of those people criticizing those Oprah quotes are, booking a flight to California or wherever she's living now and knocking on her door to tell her that they disagree with her quote and her fat machine and that she's a billionaire, right? Those people aren't going to go out there and take that action behind the words. That's just not going to happen. So what is the purpose then of the words other than to spur on and continue to grow the negativity? Right? And so that's the big moment that I had this morning, or not this morning, yesterday it was, or whenever I saw the sort of comments. And I was like, I don't miss the irritation that reading this stupidity causes me, if that makes sense, right? Like, I don't miss this being annoyed by this thing. Like, I just, the quote touched me. It meant something to me. I use it as a reminder to keep myself aligned. If you don't want it to read it, you don't want to believe it, you don't like Oprah, any of those reasons, by all means, you don't have to read it. But why take the time to criticize? Like, why, right? And that only happens on the internet, right? If someone disagrees with you in real life, unless you're at a bar and everybody's drunk and the intention is to get into a fight, people are just going to sort of sound out their opinion and then move on with their lives, right? And nobody actually sort of goes to that next level of actually taking the action it would need to make that change, right? And you know how I feel about people who complain without solutions, right? I can't stand it. Like, it's okay to dislike something. It's okay to think something is wrong. It's okay to feel that way, but please don't just continuously complain about it without making some suggestions about how to improve it, right? And that's sort of where in that category of things. And so what I'm noticing is that my overall mental health, right? And see if we can all follow, because this was sort of a crazy, like a loop event thing. But it all kind of connects itself to social media. So when the social media piece is just gone, like it's not a priority anymore, it's just a place for, community, right? When that piece of it is gone, the priority piece, you don't have to feel that way. Like, I literally fell into this old habit yesterday, went through that whole chain of motion about this whole Oprah Winfrey thing, right? And then thought to myself, wow, I could have spent the last 10 minutes and then 15 by the time I typed any kind of response, right? And I could have saved all of that and used it for something else, right? I could have gone for a walk, could have gone outside, could have messaged a friend, could have looked at pictures of my animals. I could have done a million other things in that moment, right? So it's a trap, right? It can be a trap for us. And so it's very much a place for community, but what happens to us when it becomes a priority is different. And so I wanted to think about that and talk about that and kind of toss all of that out to you guys in my usual way. As you can hear, I'm still in the midst of thinking about all of that, because I know cutting social media out entirely is not possible. First of all, I want to keep teaching the course and all of those things, but also my whole community is on there, or a portion of my community, right? My autism community is on there, and the friends that I've made over the last decade and all of that stuff, they're there. So I don't want to toss the baby out with the bathwater, as people say. But at the same time, I'm noticing this really lovely uptick in my mental health, and this really nice balance in my sleeping and eating and exercise and other things, right? And it just is an awakening, right? It's like an awareness, and I know there's something in here for me. And I wanted to share that with you guys. So what I want to do is kind of pose a challenge to you. If you watch today and you get what I'm talking about, and you're comfortable with your social media use, because I am and was comfortable with my social media use. I was beginning to get annoyed, but sort of okay with it, right? And so I'm not saying if you already hate social media, this is not the experiment for you. What I want people to do is to experiment if you do have time on the computer or on the internet that is valuable to you, right? For those people, I want you to do an experiment. I want you to try and figure out an activity that requires you to be in the moment entirely, right? Whether it is that it's a partner activity and you're responsible for your partner's safety, if you're out with a pet or an animal and you have to be responsive to their safety and needs, right? If you're out and doing the outdoors, if you do any kind of outdoor activity, you have to be totally focused on the present, right? So that you don't get hurt and nobody with you gets hurt. So look for those kinds of activities and do an experiment day for me. I want you to, it would work better, obviously, if you did it for a longer period of time, but I just want you to try it. I want you to do an activity that is, and it can be one of your special interests by all means, but make it a full day affair, like no internet for it doesn't even have to be 24 hours, for your waking time, right? Wake up in the morning and say, no internet today till you go to sleep that night, let's say, right? And let's leave it at home and do an activity, even if it's at home, that is one of those focus activities that I talked about. And I want you to feel what it feels like to look at your notifications the next day. what I noticed was that after a day working in the vet's office and feeling really fulfilled when I came home, I ate my dinner, blah, 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 and didn't really focus on the internet, is that my thoughts became more positive. But the other thing is the power that had accrued on like the internet in my life, right, was dissipated a little bit. And so when I checked my notifications those next days, it was like, I kind of don't care. Like, oh, I'm glad you liked my post. Like, oh, you commented on that. Well, I don't really feel like reading it, or, that kind of thing. And that the notifications lost their importance a little because my priorities shifted a little. And it was interesting to experiment. Yes, pretend it's 1994. Whoever typed that. I'm outside, and so the glare is terrible. I can't really see the chat too great, so I'm sorry. But yes, pretend it's 1994 if you can remember back to 1994. Pre-Google days, right? When if you needed to know something, you called the person you thought might have the answer to it, or you were going to the library, right? So think about that stuff too. If you have things you'd like to research a little bit because maybe you don't want to Google it this time. I mean, yes, pretend for a day, right? For your active hours of a day, pretend it's 1994, right? And if you have to make a phone call, maybe you'll find a payphone, or maybe it can wait till later, right? Where you don't have to connect with everything in the now, in the immediate, right? And that now, like that, right? But rather to enjoy the now and be in the now in a very real way. And so, yeah, I challenge you to that. And that's for people who are like, I know if you already hate the internet and you're over it, you already have an opinion about it. What I want to do is for the people who are comfortable with it to self-check, right? And to me, that's what this is. It's a self-check, right? Like by eliminating it, I realized how much I really just didn't want it anymore. I wasn't interested anymore. There were other things that were more interesting to me. And I want you to make sure to do that every once in a while, because I see how easy it is for us to think that what's happening on the internet or happening, on our phones is real life. But there's so much more out there to life than just that. And if we don't put our phones down on occasion, we can't remember what those joys are. And so I challenge you to a challenge day, one day this week before the next Being Becca Live, and to give yourself those active hours off the internet and find an activity that keeps your brain occupied. I want to know what your experience is with that. So if you guys take the challenge and you decide to do it, please feel free to email me at info@beccalaurie.com. I'd just love to know what happens for you guys and what your thoughts are if you just kind of do the experiment. And then another reminder, I moved the date of the seminar. It was supposed to be this morning, but I have given an extra week to it because we have one more week in June, and I wanted to allow more people to register. So if you are interested in taking Decision Making Decoded with me next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, you can still register. The link is on my website, which is beccalaurie.com, and it's under the Self-Defined Living Seminars. And so registration will be open up until the moment that we start the actual course. And then, of course, the recording will be available for purchase as well. If you're not available for the live of it, but are still interested in the course, please go ahead and register. You will receive a recording of it that you can watch 1,000,000 times. So if you're interested in that, and then you guys, I think everybody's sort of having summer brain now, at least here in the States. And what I'm noticing is lower registration, less participation, stuff like that, which tells me that you guys are stepping, excuse me, back out into the world with your vaccinations and doing things for the summer. And so that means to me that the time for learning will return in fall. So I'm going to put the seminars on hold for July and August and return to you with another one in September. And we'll also be coming back in September with the next live running of the Self-Defined Living course. Other reminder, that month, it's getting to the end of the month. So if you have questions for Asking Spectrum Women and you'd like to send it to me, please go ahead and email it to info@beccalaurie.com or use the contact page on my website. I'm also getting ready to put the newsletter out. So if you are not signed up for my free newsletter, but you'd like to be, now is the time to do so. Head over to the website and sign up for monthly musings. The next one will be going out in the early part of July. And that's about it for me and reminders. I am going to sort of do the rest of my autism for this day, autism work, and then I am doing nothing tomorrow. It is my other day off, and I am going to do nothing but stuff by myself, like write and do things on the computer and go for a walk and all of that fun stuff. So until Sunday, I will see you out and about on the interwebs. On Sunday, I will be back right here on this YouTube channel with the next Growing Gratitude. And then, of course, I'll be back here next Wednesday with the next Being Becca Live. I will see you guys out there. Don't forget to thumbs up me if you like this video, thumbs down if you didn't. Please feel free to share it, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until then, I look forward to seeing you out there. Bye from me and Fiona. Bye.